Hello, today's topic is globalization. Globalization is a process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments of different nations. It is a process driven by international trade and investment. Globalization has come a long way from its most primitive form. For example, in the 1800s, the Silk Road served as a trade route between China and the Mediterranean Sea. The Silk Road promoted the exchange of ideas and knowledge along with goods and foods. Globalization sped up dramatically in the 20th century due to a combination of air travel, the expansion of free trade, and the technological innovation era. In 1947, political leaders of 23 nations created General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, better known as GATT. The treaty was designed to promote free trade by reducing tariffs and non-tariff barriers to international trade. Tariffs are taxes imposed on exports and imports enforced by governments and can be applied to a specific good or to an entire nation. Non-tariff barriers do not consist of an exchange of money, but discourage trade by imposing quotas and, in extreme cases, embargoes, like when USA imposed an embargo against Cuba. World Trade Organization eventually succeeded GATT, but WTO's foundation was based on GATT's principles. The distinguishing trait that set WTO apart from GATT is WTO's ability to enforce the rules of international trade. The WTO possesses the ability to penalize offending member nations by forcing nations to revise its trade policy to reflect that of WTO or face heavy fines and possible trade sanctions. The WTO is a major contributor to international trade because it provides countries with peace and standardizes trade policies among its member nations. Another important driver to globalization are regional trade agreements. RTAs are reciprocal trade agreements between two or more countries. An example of an RTA is the North American Free Trade Agreement, commonly referred to as NAFTA. RTAs help promote free trade between each country and help stimulate each country's economy. The biggest contributor to the advanced progression of globalization is technology. Innovations in information technology and transportation has made conducting business more efficient and effective by decreasing the cost to move data, goods, equipment around the world. An example of technological innovation is email and video conferencing. This has allowed multinational corporations to transmit important data instantaneously. It has also allowed managers from headquarters to stay in contact with all of its international operations and respond in a timely manner. Another example is the Internet. One benefit of the Internet is the ability to eliminate intermediaries. This will help eliminate the middleman and ensure larger profits for companies. And another example is the use of intranets. Internet provides a company's subsidiaries the ability to exchange information over one database. The opposite of intranet is the extranet. This gives distributors and suppliers access to a company's database so they can place orders or restock inventories electronically and automatically. A good example of a company successfully using extranet is Walmart. Walmart has entrusted its suppliers with fulfilling the company's inventories by using radio frequency identification, which allows continuous monitoring of inventory throughout its entire process. The two areas of business that globalization has had the biggest impacts on are globalization of markets and production. Globalization of markets refers to the convergence in buyer preferences in markets around the world. Globalization of markets help reduce marketing costs by standardizing certain market strategies. For example, by having a global product, a company will only need to spend on packaging. Globalization of markets also creates new market opportunities. A company can explore foreign markets when its home market has reached its full maturity. Globalization of markets also helps levels uneven income streams. For example, cyclical businesses can level its income by selling to foreign markets during downtimes in its home country. The other sector that is receiving a major benefit from globalization is in production. Globalization of production is the relocation of production activities to locations to help a company achieve its cost minimization or quality maximization objectives for a good or service. A company can access lower cost laborers in developing countries. Before, everything used to be goods, but now services can be sourced at low cost labor countries. An example is accounting and even research and development. A company can also access technical expertise and access production inputs that is either not available at home or maybe too expensive. The cons, the negatives, and disadvantages of globalization. People argue that, well, the general complaint about globalization is that it has made the rich richer while making the non-rich poorer. Another is the biggest problem for a developed country is that jobs are lost and transferred to lower cost countries. Workers in developed countries like the US face pay cut demands from employers who threaten to export jobs. Multinational corporations are accused of social injustice, unfair working conditions, as well as a lack of concern for environment and mismanagement of natural resources. Building products overseas in countries like China puts our technologies at risk of being copied or stolen. And the last one is globalization has led to exploitation of labor. Prisoners and child workers are used to working in inhumane conditions. Safety standards are ignored to reduce cheap goods. In conclusion, because each nation is now dependent on each other, it is important that countries work together to ensure a sustainable future. Thank you.